Hello and welcome back to BS Rugby. The URC resumes once again after a break for the November internationals. As always, if you're regular here on the channel, you'll know I'll be doing a preview ahead of the games and, of course, giving my predictions. As always, I'm joined by a special guest. This time it is Connor Broomfield from Four Provinces Rugby and United Rugby Championship Forum. Two great Facebook groups involved with rugby. As always, make sure if you're new here on the channel to hit the subscribe button. It's free to do, helps grow the channel. Leave a like and get your predictions in the comments down below as you could feature on Sunday night's review show. Let's get into the fixtures. First game is a Friday night game which sees Connacht host the Ospreys down at the Sports Ground Stadium. Kickoff is at 25:08 local time. The referee is Ben Blaine of Scotland. Connacht this season so far, they currently sit ninth, having won their last game. But before that, they lost on the opening day, won on the second day, but then two back-to-back defeats leaves them in a pretty interesting position. For the Ospreys, it's been a very good season. As an Ospreys fan, I can say this pretty happily. Winning the last two, losing our third game of the season, but winning the opening two gives us 4 out of 5 win. Now, last season, they faced one another in the Rainbow Cup. This time, it was a win for the Connacht, winning by 26 points to 19. While in the Pro 14 earlier on in the year, Ospreys won in the Sun 26 points to 20. Both teams have been announced. Let's take a look at them now. This is how Connacht line up for this game in the URC. Starting with the fullback, Oran McNulty plays at fullback with Alex Wooten and Mac Hansen on the wing. Sammy Arnold and Shane Bolton are the centre partnership. New contract for their number 10 is Jack Carty at 10 alongside Kieran Marmion. In the front row, we have Matthew Burke, Dave Heffernan and Finlay Beelan, with Niall Murray and Ulton Dillon playing in the locks. The back row then is Jared Butler, Connor Oliver and Paul Boyle. The Ospreys have also announced their team. This is how they line up, starting with the fullback once again. Dan Evans plays at fullback with Max Nagy and Luke Morgan on the wings. In the centre, we have Owen Watkin and Joe Hawkins, with Stephen Myler and Rhys Webb at 10 and 9. Rhys Webb is captain for this game. Nicky Smith plays in the front row alongside Elvis Tyone and Tom Boter. Bradley Davis and Rhys Davis are the lock partnerships, with the back row being Sam Cross, Jack Morgan and Ethan Roots. It's very difficult to pick a winner of this game, obviously, because form really isn't something that we can truly take into consideration, considering that they've only played a couple of development games over the past few weeks or so. But I've always got to back my boys. I've always got to back Ospreys. I think if we can keep it tight, we can keep it in the forwards, I expect us to win this game by 4 to 7 points. Let's hear what Connor has to say on this game.
The feeling around Connacht is they're probably at their strongest in a long time. They've their strongest squad and their best coaching ticket since Pat Lam delivered the Pro 12 title with them in 2016. They hammered Ulster in the last match before the URC broke up for the international window. The Ospreys have been without doubt the pick of the Welsh sides and one of the top teams in the competition. The 4 wins from 5. Their last outing against Munster, they were really impressive. Solid core of players. You know, Stephen Myler is playing great. Rhys Webb, good set of forward. So it's looking promising again for Ospreys. Because Connacht have home advantage, I'd give them a slight edge, but only a very slight one. And I think Connacht will probably win this fixture. Maybe I tipped them to win by somewhere between 1 and 5 points.
First game on the Saturday sees Benetton host Glasgow Warriors. This game is down at the Stadio Comunale di Monego. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. UK and Ireland time. That's 2 p.m. out in Italy. And the referee is Marius van Wijstozen from South Africa. Now, Benetton currently sits 8th in the league, having lost their last 3, but won 2 on the opening weekends of the season. For Glasgow, very different story. Lost their past game, but won the previous 3 while losing on the opening day. Now, last season, they faced each other once, this time Glasgow Warriors winning a pretty entertaining game up at Scotstoun. Glasgow winning this one by 46 points to 25. The time of recording, the teams have not yet been announced, but it'll be interesting to see how many internationals are back for each side. How are teams going to adapt to be back playing at this level, having maybe not played much rugby at all? It's going to be fascinating to see, but I'm going to back Glasgow to get the win out in Italy. I don't expect it to be particularly an exciting game, but I do think that Glasgow will win this one by 5 to 10 points. Let's see what Connor has to say on this match.
Yeah, I have. Like they started off great. They started off where they left off last season after winning the Rainbow Cup. Couple of early wins against Stormers and Edinburgh, and we said great. They have the momentum behind them. And then the last few matches, they've just gone back to their old ways where they couldn't win a match. I remember maybe they're just unlucky, or maybe these defeats will get into their head now again. So the other thing is both Benetton and Glasgow, they both would have contributed a lot of players to their national sides for the recent internationals. So I think it's largely a question of who's getting the most internationals back. I think I'd say Glasgow by 7 to 10.
The second game of the Saturday sees the Stormers host the Zebra down at the DHL Stadium. Kickoff is at 3 p.m. at local time. The referee is Ben Whitehouse of Wales. Looking at form, both teams have really struggled this season. The Stormers losing their opening 3, but they did draw their next game and won their last game while they faced the Dragons at Rodney Parade. For Zebra, it's been a really tough season. No wins so far, no draws whatsoever, and you do wonder where are those wins going to come from. Again, the teams have not been announced, but for me, this is pretty much a straightforward victory for the Stormers, especially that they're in South Africa. I'm going to say the Stormers by 15 plus. Let's hear what Connor's got to say on this one.
An easy one to call. It's the Stormers who I think have actually looked the most impressive of the South African teams when they've been up north with us. They picked up a win and a draw from the four matches in the UK and Ireland. Yeah, it's an easy one. Zebra are not from 5. So far, they lost to the Lions on the opening match, and they haven't looked like really winning a match since then. So I think Stormers by a good bit, maybe 20 plus.
We stay in South Africa for the next game as the South Sea Sharks welcome the Scarlets to the Johnson Kings Park. This is kickoff at 3:30 p.m. local time with Andrea Perardi, the referee. The Italian is the match official. The Sharks this season had a really tough start. They lost their opening 2, but then got a surprise victory over Ospreys, but then lost last time out. The Scarlets have had an up and down start to the season, losing on the opening weekend, but have won bar 1 game throughout that time. But still, a little bit of inconsistency is creeping in, and they look like they're still trying to find their feet under Dwayne Peel. It's going to be fascinating to see how the teams adapt to the way of playing out in South Africa and how they manage to go. But I'm fascinated to see how this one goes. I think it's going to be a tight one, but I am going to back the Scarlets to get a win out in South Africa. Let's see what Connor has to say on this one.
They looked pretty good in one of the earlier rounds at home to the Lions, and you thought they're back on track after their opening day loss. What was described as a weak Munster side travelling over, and I think the general feeling in Ireland was that Munster were going to take a heavy beating in Clonethley. But Munster went over and put about 50 odd points on them. So I think this is the weekend where we start seeing what the South African franchises are about. You know, they're all at home, and they'd be much better prepared. They don't have all their South African internationals back, but like you say, the Sharks will be missing Khaleesi and Am, but they're at home. They did beat the Ospreys, your guys away, so you know they have a bit of form. Went down by. I'd be backing the Sharks here, maybe by 10 to 15.
The next game on the Saturday sees the Dragons host Edinburgh down at Rodney Parade. Kickoff is at 5:15 at local time with Mike Adamson. The referee, the Scotsman, is in the middle. The Dragons currently sit 11th in the league. They have had a pretty tough start to the season, only winning 1 game so far. But they have managed to push teams close, and performances haven't been that bad. For Edinburgh, on the other hand, a decent start to the season, only losing once while winning 3 and drawing 1. Now, last season they did face one another, interestingly enough, down at the Principality Stadium, and that day was a win for the Dragons. The Dragons winning 24 points to 17. It's going to be fascinating once again to see how many internationals are back for both sides. But for Edinburgh, some of their stars were not called up to the Scotland squad, the likes of Ben Vellacott, the scrum half, who's been absolutely fantastic. I think this game is going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. I don't expect it to be a particularly exciting game, but I do have a sneaky feeling that Edinburgh are going to go down to South Wales and get the win here. But let's see what Connor predicts for this one.
They have just the one loss in round 2, wasn't it, against and they've taken on 2 South African sides there with a win and a draw. So yeah, they've been pretty good. Maybe you could argue the fixture list was a bit kinder to them than other sides, but they've been getting the results. And Bet Zebre and Bet Bulls and they bet Scarlets. Dragons, interestingly enough, they seem to be doing well against the Irish teams. They gave Leinster one hell of a game there in the second round of the competition. It wasn't the prettiest game to watch it at all. It was, but the Dragons put up a huge defensive display and could have nicked it. I think it was 7-6 in the end to Leinster. So the scoreline kind of tells its own story. I think I'm going to go with Edinburgh, but only just maybe by 2 points.
We head back to South Africa for this one. It's the Blue Bulls hosting Munster. And these two teams have had very different seasons, haven't they, indeed? The Bulls currently sit 15th, having lost their opening 2. They did manage to get a win on game week 3, but then they lost their last fixture. For Munster, what a season it's been so far. 4 wins out of 5, but they did lose against the Ospreys last time out. Again, it very much depends on how many players can be back for both sides. But for me, this is going to be a win for Munster without a shadow of a doubt. I expect them to go down there and be pretty dominant and win this one fairly comfortably by 15 to 20 points. But let's see what Connor's got to say on this one. Does he agree with me?
Head coach Van Graan, of course, is South African. They've a number of other players. John Klein, Kenyon Knox. So they've a large South African influence. So if any team can adapt to the conditions, you'd imagine it should be Munster. But they also have a large Irish contingent. They were involved in the November series. They won't be available to them. So it won't be far from their strongest squad traveling. Ty Burns not going to be there. Peter O'Mahony not going to be there. Conor Murray, Keith Earls, and Andrew Conway. All these guys are going to be missing. But I'd fancy the home side in this one.
And Larkham, who's going to be heading to Australia, back home to Australia at the end of the season, spent 2 years as one of the senior coaches at Munster. Do you think he's had a positive impact on this side, and do you think he'll be missed?
Judging by the way they play, and the ability to develop their attack and play, you'd probably have to say no. If you use, you can only really judge by the big matches, and if you go back to the final last year, the Pro 14 final, when they came up against Leinster, they seemed totally bereft of any attacking plan around Munster. From any Munster supporters I've spoken to in the forums on both either 4 provinces or the URC forum, was the thanks, but good luck.
Arguably the biggest game of the weekend sees Leinster welcome Ulster to the RDS on the Friday night. We will be doing a watch along for this one. Kickoff is at 8 o'clock, so join me live from around 7:45 p.m. for that one. So make sure to subscribe ready for that. Let's have a chat about this season. Then both teams are the standout sides from the season. Leinster sitting top, having won all of their opening games, while Ulster sits second, having won all of their games bar 1. Last season, they did face each other twice. First of all, Last season, they faced each other in the Rainbow Cup. That was a win for Leinster by 24 points to 12. While in the Pro 14, they also faced one another, this time down at the King's Pan, and it was Leinster who came out on top, 38 points to 19. Now, once again, there's a lot of players who were playing for Leinster who, of course, went over to Ireland to play for the national side. And it's going to be really interesting to see how they adapt. They are known for having strength in depth, but this Ulster team can really play very opposing styles of play, very different styles indeed. I've got a feeling about Ulster here. I think Ulster might win this one. I think Ulster are going to win it by 3 to 5 points. Let's see what Con has to say. But don't forget, make sure to join me for that watch along on Saturday night.
Yeah, can't complain. Took off where we left off. I was actually a bit concerned about the Bulls coming up. You know, there was so much hype about, like, you know, the best South African teams was going to come up and show the Pro 14 champions what it was all about. But since then, it's all been good. 3 bonus point wins since then. We're 24 points from 25, and we've developed some. I think we've moved on, or trying to move on from slightly tweaking our style of playing in a number of ways from last season or the year before. You know, that anyone that's been watching Leinster or following the European Cup, Champions Cup, will see that, like, it's when Leinster come up against a really physically dominant opposition, they struggle, and they hit that brick wall and can't. So you can see they're and you know, the feeling is that maybe they have it too easy at times in this competition, that they can bully sides and steamroll them, and then they come up against the likes of La Rochelle or the likes of Saracens, and that style doesn't work. And I would fancy them to win. Always fancy them to win at the RDS, even with the internationals out. Ulster might be missing a few players of their own. I know Ian Henderson pulled up injured before the Argentina match and isn't expected to make this one. Some other guys that were involved on Sunday, like Tom O'Toole and Robert Balakoon. I don't know if we'll see them, but they'd be much closer to full strength than Leinster would. But given Leinster's pedigree, their strength and depth of their panel, and the fact that they're home in the RDS, I'd back Leinster to win. I'd back them to win by about 7 to 10 points.
The final game of the weekend then sees Emirates Lions hosting Cardiff Rugby down at Ellis Park, or as it's commercially known, Emirates Airline Park. Kickoff is at 2 p.m. at local time, with Andrew Brace the referee. So this is going to be an interesting one, isn't it? The Lions so far this season have had an okay-ish start. Won on the opening day, but lost the last 3. Well, Cardiff, once again, an up and down season so far. 1 on the opening day, lost 2 on the bounce, but then have won at the last 2. Again, interested to see how the internationals adapt to being back. I think Cardiff are going to go out there and win pretty comfortably. I've not been impressed by the Lions whatsoever this season, if I'm being totally honest. Probably the weaker of the South African sides, and I think Cardiff are going to go out there and win.
Cardiff, yeah, they've been very much up and down. You know, they've 3 wins and 2 losses there from their 5 matches. You know, I saw them on the opening weekend against Connacht, and it's a fixture where they've enjoyed good success over the years, especially at home, and they look pretty strong. They went down, then they seemed to get bullied by the Bulls in the second half of that match, then and took a bit of a beating. But they've responded well in the last couple of matches. You know, they bet a pretty strong Shark side at home, and they won their derby against Dragons, the perceived weakest opposition in the Lions. but again, home advantage is going to be big here. As you know, back in home ground, their own terrain, and they're in their own stadium, so that will count for a lot. It's a funny one, the Lions, because you know the first half of the first match, you saw them against Zebre. I think they were about 28-0 up or a half time or something, and you thought, oh, these guys are good. And but since then it hasn't been so impressive. I think Lions will have enough to get over the line.
Talk to me a little bit about the two forums that you're involved in. First of all, for Provinces supporters. Talk to me a little bit about how that came to be and what happens on the forum.
Okay, well, how it came to be is I was sitting at home last Christmas and got through Christmas Day and Stephen's Day, and I had a plan in my mind. I'd been involved with another helping another crew run an Irish forum before that, but I kind of wanted to go out on my own and do one that was I had a certain way I wanted it to do. I wanted the ethos of it to be about respect and inclusivity and rugby's values, and a place where we could discuss rugby without trolling and without antagonism and the toxicity that haunts most social media platforms and outlets. So we got it going, and we're up to nearly a year later. We're up to 1,300 members, and I've loved every minute of it. And I've a great team with me now as well. We've Gregor Galway, and you know well yourself, and he's on every forum, and he's one of our moderators. And Colin and Catherine have been with me as admins from the start, and Bernie's with us as well. So every province is represented, and we've a bit a gender balance, and that's what it's all about. Including everyone, let no one feel, and it's and we set the tone. You know, we open up discussions. We reach out to the different areas of rugby on the island, and it's just a friendly place and a very enjoyable place to talk rugby.
Exactly. And big news, of course, a new forum.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, URC forum. Just in operation a couple of weeks. It's basically to cover, provide news and discussion, very much like for Provinces, a civilized place to discuss rugby, and a respectful place to discuss rugby, and there's a great team here. There's a group of us involved, and there's a lot of very experienced admins. There's Joe Shep from the Tree Bod group that's put a huge amount of work into getting this off the ground. There's Rian is the runs RCB. There's Diane Stevenson, South African guys, Ryan, David Smart and Brandon. They're bringing their input from the South African teams and educating us all and keeping us up to date with coming, because a lot of supporters and fans wouldn't have been hugely familiar with the supporters and fans from our teams in UK and Ireland wouldn't have been familiar with the South African sides, their players, their history, their background. So the guys are doing great work on getting us all up to scratch on their teams. And we've John Anderson is covering the Scottish angle as well. He's just joined us. So all we're missing now is an Italian, and we'll have every country in the competition covered. That's what it's all about, you know.
I'll leave a link down below for people to check them out. So there we go. Those are my preview and predictions ahead of this week's fixtures in the URC. As always, make sure if you have enjoyed to like the video, subscribe to the channel, get your predictions in the comments down below to feature on Sunday's review show. Thank you very much to Connor Broomfield from Four Provinces Rugby and the United Rugby Championship Forum. Links to those are in the description down below. If you want to have a great rugby chat, do make sure to head over there and join them groups. Of course, remember to join me live for the watch along as Leinster host Ulster. Kickoff is at 8 o'clock, so we'll go live around 7:45 for that. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon here on BS Rugby. Peace.